Hey there, snacks. You are a snack, and it's me, Jack. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day, morning, or evening. It's time to read some Reddit stories, so let's begin. This story started by QuirkyWait7729. Am I the a-hole for buying my boyfriend flowers after he mentioned most men only get them when they die? Okay, so my boyfriend, 22 male, and I, 21 female, have been together for about 5 months, and it has been good so far. But about a week ago, when I was at his apartment, he told me that most men only receive flowers when they're dead. He then went on a bit of a rant about women not caring as much as men when it comes to their partners, and then men want shows of affection too. I honestly took this all as a hint that he wanted flowers. So yesterday, I went to Whole Foods and picked out all the flowers I thought he would like and put together a big bouquet for him. I also got him a coffee, some chocolates, and a few other things I thought he would like. I've done things like this before, but minus the flowers. I usually put a Game Pass gift card or a Lego set on. I feel like this is important because I don't want anyone to think I don't show him affection or get him gifts. I definitely do. So, I show up to his apartment with literally the biggest smile. I was so excited for his reaction, but when I gave him the flowers, he got a super uncomfortable look on his face and wouldn't touch or kiss me at all. I asked him what was wrong and if he liked the flowers, and then just kind of blew up at me, saying that flowers are only for apologizing and that if I cheated on him, I needed to tell him right now. I was shocked and started crying because I have never and would never cheat on anyone. He took the flowers to the kitchen and threw them in the trash, which honestly felt like a huge punch in the gut. He told me to get out of his apartment and that he didn't have time for cheating bitches, his words. Every time I tried to explain, he said he didn't want my excuses, and when I'm ready to tell him who the man is, then I can talk to him then. But there is no man. I didn't cheat on him. I just thought he wanted flowers. I've never thought of flowers as just an apology. He's never gotten them for me, but I just thought he didn't like showing love that way, so I buy them for myself every week. I'm just so confused and hurt by his reaction, and I don't know what to do to fix the situation. So, am I the a-hole for buying him flowers? Do women really only buy flowers as an apology? I'm so confused. So, reading some comments? The hell? This dude is a major a-hole for sure. Certainly not the a-hole. I'd be over the moon to receive flowers, and this dude certainly sounded like he was asking for flowers without asking for them. This is either rage bait or your boyfriend is just a total jerk for sure and showing his true colors. Now, others actually think maybe the fact she's giving him stuff is the issue. So you usually give a Game Pass gift card or some Lego set. How often are you getting your boyfriend of 5 months gifts? You make it sound like you've given multiple random, somewhat expensive gifts in 5 months, which is truly a bit weird. I mean, yeah, it's possible that this guy just isn't used to a girlfriend who actually buys him things. But instead of appreciating the fact he has a girlfriend who actually gives him things, he'd rather assume that she has some nefarious reasons for giving him things as a distraction for her infidelity. Hope he responds to this to say, I usually try to do something nice for him like once a month or so. I spend about $50 on some things I'll think he'll like. I never thought of it as weird. I just like giving to the people I love. He typically pays for our date once a month, and I never want him to feel like he's putting in all of the effort. Some try to understand the boyfriend's side here. I think it is likely the boyfriend did not know how to process this kind gesture. He probably had stimulus overload and handled the situation poorly. It is likely the boyfriend never actually considered the OP would gift him flowers after that initial dialogue. He should have showed gratitude. He obviously failed miserably. But overall, the comments were on OP's side. So OP comes back in an edit letting us know just how this boyfriend's been ever since she made this post. Edit. I'm completely overwhelmed by the responses, and everyone is making me realize that he's not worth my time at all. I tried to do something nice for him, and he threw it back in my face. I texted him and told him we need to talk, and his response was, finally ready to confess or what? So that tells me he's done no critical thinking on his hand about the situation. We are meeting for lunch tomorrow and will update everyone after. Thank you everyone for the kind replies and for opening my eyes to what an a-hole this guy is. I'm just glad I didn't waste years of my time. Second edit, I want to clarify a few things about my post. 1. His parents gift each other flowers regularly, so he has seen flowers given to a partner for reasons other than cheating. 2. His mother gifted him flowers for his college graduation, so he has received flowers previously, and this is not the first time. Also, I've had a few people tell me it's weird of me to gift him things like the Lego sets, etc. that I mentioned in my post. He told me at the beginning of our relationship that his love language is gift giving and he loves receiving gifts. That is why I do it. I did not think it would come across as weird in any way. I only spend around $50 each time, which is nothing for me, and I have a well-paying job. I was in a relationship for 2 years previously, and I gave my partner monthly gifts throughout the entire relationship, so I'm in no way trying to love bomb him. I just always want my partner to know they are loved and appreciated. But then, big update, everyone, his mother is asking if she can call me? What should I do? His mother loves me and is honestly an angel. I don't know what he's told her about the situation. Should I be worried? Continuing on, I'm sorry for updating so many times, there's just a lot happening. I'm going to take Reddit's advice and take the call from his mother. I don't think she means any harm in calling me, but if it gets hostile at all, I will hang up. I am also considering canceling lunch tomorrow, but it partially depends on how this phone call goes. I've also had someone suggest just sending them both the link to this post, which I am considering. Everyone's opinions on that would be appreciated. I told his mother she can call me this evening, so I will update after that as well. So, we then come to the official Update 1. Alright guys, this isn't the update any of you were expecting, or maybe it is, and it's definitely not the one I was expecting to give. But his mum called me, and it was both him and his mum on the phone. I pretty quickly told them I wasn't willing to talk to both of them, but my ex-boyfriend was crying, like crying actual tears, so I listened. His mum told me he had been talking to her about us, and she wants him to talk to me with her support so he can tell me everything. He started it by telling me how he hasn't felt like I'm what he wants in a woman. I'm not willing to move in with him yet, and he's someone who only wants to date for 6 months before getting engaged, which he had not told me ever before, so this surprised me. This would mean he wants to be engaged next month, which is way too soon for me. He also told me that he has trauma around cheating because his high school girlfriend cheated on him in junior year, and you guessed it, she apologized with a rose. Then he told me that he wants someone who is less career-focused, and someone who wants to have kids and not work. He said he thinks some of my ideals and morals are skewed, but wouldn't tell me which ones or what he meant. He also told me he's realized that I am a radical feminist, which I think is extreme because, well, yes, I am a feminist. I don't hate all men or think they are all bad. I never talk badly about them to him, and I've never really given him a reason to think this aside from being pro-choice. Regardless, he said he can't date someone who doesn't respect him and emasculates him. He said the flowers I gave him showed that I viewed him as feminine, and also showed that I was cheating. I told him again that I was not, and had never cheated on him, and asked if he had cheated on me before. He was quiet for, I kid you not, a full 2 minutes, and then asked me to define cheating. I asked if he had slept with someone else, and he said no. I asked why he mentioned the flowers if he thought flowers were emasculating, and he said it was more about the fact that men are treated as such, and are, quote, more as slaves than human in our society. He said it was less about him wanting flowers, and more about him feeling like women aren't owed flowers. That was enough explanation on where he was coming from for me. I told him our relationship was clearly over, and we don't share the same ideals. He said he was willing to work on it if I would make change to become wife material. I said no and hung up. So yeah, lunch is definitely cancelled, and we're not together anymore. His mum didn't really say much, other than that she would miss me and would always care about me. I know it all seems like it was best for me. I'm heartbroken, and I didn't expect our relationship to end like this. He knew I wanted to work on my career, wait to have kids, etc., and always said he was fine with it. So it seems like he changed all of his expectations suddenly. I've been nonstop crying since the call, and I don't know what to think. I feel so stupid for not seeing that he was like this sooner, and I just wished I never dated him. But I hope that gives some closure to everyone, and I appreciate everyone's help and kind words. Thank you, everyone. So there it is. As comments point out, it seems like he was only ranting about that as some right-leaning rhetoric that tries to prove men are just as oppressed as women, when actually faced with what he supposedly was arguing for, he got uncomfortable because it wasn't actually an issue he believes in. Sounds like he's leaning further from you ideologically. That's why I broke up with my ex. He started saying stuff like, bring back manly men, and I knew it was over. OP agreeing, that's what I think too. He never actually wanted to get the flowers. He wanted to prove that he was being shorted by women, and when I got him what he wanted, he threw it back in my face because he wanted to prove a point, and me getting him flowers messed that up. And I agree with this. Define cheating as a way bigger issue and should have been addressed. That boy was not loyal. I'm also really curious as to the mother's position in all this. She was on the phone with him for support. She definitely would have been told his intentions with this phone call in the first place. I wouldn't be surprised if the mother here was doing this to save OP. Like, yes, it's her son. She's gonna love her son, understandably. I know we could theorize that maybe she's just as misogynistic in a way as the son here, but let's remind ourselves that she got flowers and gets flowers from her partner all the time, etc. Like, there is evidence in what OP was saying with the edits and information about the mother here that, you know, she's not the same type of person he is. But let me know what you think. I will just end on a shout out to the ex-boyfriend here for saying he is willing to work on the relationship as long as she is the one who does all the changing, not him. Now over to this exhausting story by Rekha Berry. I fell in love with a woman a decade older than me, an alcoholic, and with emotional distance problems. I need opinions. I'm a university student and a writer, and I often go to a somewhat sketchy cafe where I drink an absurd amount of coffee, write, and try to get inspired as my daily basis. About 3 months ago, I noticed this incredibly tall, somewhat androgynous woman who caught my attention a lot. The first thing I noticed was how her gestures, mannerisms, and the way she carried herself were very masculine, something that I really liked. I also noticed that she ordered an impressive amount of alcohol. Since I'm an extrovert, though I was a bit nervous, I approached her after debating about it for 16 minutes. I told her something that, in hindsight, was pretty stupid. I said I had a character in one of my stories that was basically her, and I explained that I write and go to this cafe regularly. Now, I said this in a cheerful and concise way. She was already a little tipsy, chuckled, and said she was flattered. I'm pretty sure I blushed a little, but I brushed it off and asked if I could sit with her. She said yes. We had a casual conversation. She told me she didn't go to the cafe often, but came in because she figured they had alcohol. I told her it was a great place, exaggerating a bit to convince her to return. I asked her name, and we talked for almost 4 hours. When we finished, I offered to drive her home since we're both women, and it was late. She said she had her car and was fine. To stay in touch, I asked if she planned on coming back and what time she usually did. I told her my usual schedule, and we said goodbye. The following Monday, I arrived at around 8:30 p.m., and she showed up at 9. She sat next to me, and we started talking again. I told her I felt restless sitting for too long, and asked if she wanted to go for a walk. She agreed, and we strolled around the streets, chatting. This happened repeatedly over the next week, around 7 days of us meeting, accidentally on purpose, and talking. Then, one day, a friend invited me to a Jewish party. I don't quite remember the occasion, and I invited her along. I told her she could bring someone else if she wanted, and not to worry about it. At the party, there were people our age and older, so it felt pretty normal. We stayed for about 2 hours before stepping out to talk. I invited her to have dinner at my place, mentioning, falsely, that other friends would be there. We went to my house, and I actually cooked dinner for her. She complimented my cooking and made a flirty joke about traditional roles. Since I lived a bit outside the city, it was hard for her to leave so late, so I offered her one of my guest rooms. She agreed. I usually wake up at 4 a.m., so that morning I did my usual routine, then waited for her to wake up. When she did, I made her breakfast, and she left. We continued seeing each other at the cafe, and at some point, as our friendship grew, she asked for my number. Not romantically, just because we'd become close. Over the next month, we became best friends. We went out every single day, doing everything together. Brunches, picnics, museums, libraries, movies, and more. Everything felt normal until one day I invited her for a sleepover. Knowing she liked alcohol, I bought a lot of whiskey. We watched a ton of movies, listened to music, danced, and although I have a pool, only swam while she smoked from a chair. That night, she got pretty drunk and said a lot of random stuff. Also told me she was 30 years old. Based on her appearance, I thought she was around 26 to 28, so it was a bit surprising. I'm 19, but I didn't think much of it because I've always been more mature for my age. That night, she also shared other irrelevant things before going to sleep in a small room I have that's kind of a cute storage space. I brought her a blanket and playfully put it over her head. She kept pulling it off, laughing. I did this about 4 times until, apparently annoyed, she jokingly cursed at me and pulled me into the bed and roughly kissed me. It's worth mentioning that I'm a bit short, 4'9" and underweight due to anorexia, while she's 6 foot and much stronger. When she pulled me, I ended up on top of her, but then she flipped us so she was on top. Feeling her weight, I grabbed her arm to signal I wanted to switch positions, so we rolled again. This happened a few times until we fell off the bed. Startled, I let out a small scream and got up quickly. She sat up, and since it was so awkward, I just left. I wasn't drunk, so I went straight to bed. The next morning, everything seemed normal. I assumed she didn't remember anything because of how much she drank, and since she didn't bring it up, I didn't either. I made her breakfast, and she left. We continued seeing each other, talking, and going out as usual. There were days when she opened up about very personal things. One day, she told me about her time in the military, which made a lot of sense considering how physically strong she was. I mean, seriously, she was incredibly strong. I'd say our entire relationship was a friendship charged with tension. I divided our time into 3 phases. The first month, when we met and built trust. The second month, which I just described, where we grew closer and shared deeper conversations, including the kiss incident. And the third month, which I haven't covered yet, where things escalated due to several factors and a specific situation that frustrated me. In the third month, I realized how much of an alcoholic she was. It didn't take long to notice, but I didn't give it much importance. She would text me while drunk, sending short, often poorly written messages. Since she's older, her messages were usually either overly brief or laced with irony. Despite this, she was serious in real life and mostly in text conversations. There were days when she bombarded me with messages, saying things like, "Can I go to your house?" or "Can I come over?" or even, "I need you." These texts felt urgent, but by the next day or a few hours later, she'd delete them. Most of the time, I didn't even see the messages before they disappeared. When I did catch them, she'd act like nothing had happened. This was the biggest issue in our relationship. She'd do things and then brush them off with a casual, "Oh, I was drunk." I rarely ask her about it, but when I did, she'd dismiss it completely. This behavior frustrated me immensely. One day, after leaving work, it was raining heavily. I could have gone home with one of my theater buddies since they live nearby, but of course, I didn't. Love, you know. I'm the only one out who lives far away. Sometimes I bike home if I'm heading to a friend's place first, and I hope they'll drive me the rest of the way. But that day, I biked to her apartment and arrived soaking wet. To my surprise, she was very drunk, but still recognized me. Here's where things got intense. Drenched, I expected her to just let me into her apartment. Instead, she told me to take off my wet clothes, saying she'd get me something. She showed me to the bathroom, and I stayed in my underwear because I'm very delicate about that. Eventually, she knocked on the door and handed me a leather jacket with a warm lining. Our height difference meant the jacket reached halfway down my thighs. I came out, and she gave me a towel for my hair. Nervously, I told her I just needed to stay a bit and would call a cab. Instead, she picked me up bridal style, took me to her bed, and offered me a beer, but I refused, which later she drank herself. Then she made me coffee. Sitting beside her in just my underwear and her oversized jacket made me extremely nervous. I tried to keep my distance, but she just looked at me. I'm very insecure and don't like comments about my appearance, even compliments. She knew this, and despite being drunk, she started talking about my femininity and delicate nature. She said I was dainty in a way that felt sincere. The way she spoke made me feel so special. I couldn't believe a drunk person could say such heartfelt things without meaning them. As she talked, she moved closer until she was leaning on my shoulder, smelling me. I wear a lot of perfume daily and use countless scented products. She mentioned this as she leaned in. Then she slowly unzipped the jacket to my lower abdomen, placed her hands on my ribs, and kissed my neck and torso, but never my chest. I'm very sensitive about touch, and I was initially uncomfortable, but nothing she did felt inappropriate. It was soft, deliberate, and respectful in its own way. Her kisses on my abdomen and ribs made me hyperventilate. For a moment, I almost fainted. It was like that for a few minutes, probably 8, but I felt like hours to me. I was red and didn't move at any time, not because it made me uncomfortable, but on the contrary, no one had made me feel that way, and obviously I liked it. A lot, to be honest. I didn't want to move at all. It was intimate in a way that made me comfortable. Her mouth was a little dry, but I could feel her breaths on my abdomen, and every kiss she left made me breathe faster. It was so beautiful. I just stayed there looking at her and feeling madly in love, and she just kept leaving kisses all over my body, touching my ribs. I really can't get it out of my head. Eventually, she picked me up again and left me in her closet with her clothes, telling me to change. I didn't like it, but I had no choice. When the rain stopped, she drove me home in her truck, putting my bike in the back. After that, I avoided talking to her for about a week because I was so overwhelmed. She eventually came to my house and stayed over one night. The next day, I had invited some elderly women I play tennis with at a club. I told her I was going shopping for the lunch, an excuse because I love shopping. She didn't bring up what had happened, and I didn't either. I gave her breakfast and then took her shopping. I bought her high-waisted blue pants, a soft fabric belt, and a loose white silk shirt with buttons. Meanwhile, I bought about 7 dresses and several pairs of heels. Later, some elderly ladies mistook her for my boyfriend because of her androgynous style and height. That evening, we had a sophisticated dinner. Afterward, we visited a paid entry garden. And in the car, I didn't do anything. I just smoked. She obviously noticed, so she asked me about it. I didn't want to tell her, but she pulled over to the side of the road and confronted me, and I started crying in a millisecond, almost screaming, and told her about it. Not everything I was feeling, but mostly about what she did and how she couldn't just do that and then ignore it or pretend it didn't happen. Even though it wasn't explicit, I basically confessed part of my feelings for her, implicitly because I didn't tell her directly anything related to romance, but obviously it isn't normal behavior for a friend. She was shocked. She told me she had been super drunk and didn't remember anything, saying she was sorry for making me feel that way. She insisted it wasn't her intention, and that she didn't want me to see things the wrong way. She explained that when she's drunk, she says things randomly without thinking. But, how can she say that? How can she do that? It has to mean something. Anyway, after the car incident, we went to the garden, and I calmed down a little. But obviously, I went home completely devastated. I didn't want to talk to her after that. When I say I didn't want to talk to her, I mean for a few days. We're talking normally now, but our visits have decreased because neither of us brings it up. But it really bothers me. I think it traumatized me a little. Recently, she's been texting and calling me a lot, and I don't know what to do. Oh, and by the way, I know her dad was also an alcoholic and emotionally distant, while her mum was more stable but pretty conservative. So I assume she might be closeted? I don't know, but the whole situation is overwhelming me. So, do you think there are real feelings behind it, or just confusion and being delusional? I asked my brother, who's 26, and he told me to just distance myself from her, even though I don't want to. I told some friends the bad part of our situation, and obviously they all hated her and told me to distance myself, which obviously I didn't. No one really understands how much I really worship her. This brings me to another point. Her social circle is like 10 rude, alcoholic old men that she hangs out with to play pool, while mine is quite huge. And to keep in touch with all my friends, I normally organize hangouts and events, casual things. But since I met her and we started going out more, I literally forgot about everyone else, and I just wanted to be with her all the time. A lot of friends thought that she was manipulating me to get away from everybody else, which is completely a lie. It was my own, and unconsciously I alone was decreasing my quality time with all my other friends just to be with her. I literally feel like I can't live without her. She is an immensely important part of my life. I think about her all the time, from the moment I wake up to the moment I sleep. I don't do my things normally. I am desperate at all times because I want to see her so badly. And I get nervous. When I talk to other people, they make me desperate, and I can only think about how much I would like to be with her. And despite being someone who is very social, I don't feel like meeting someone new. I am also a very feminine person, and I love to buy all kinds of clothes. I don't usually wear blue because it is not a color that I like to wear, but since she told me that her favorite color was blue, I have about 5 blue dresses, new shoes, and especially jewelry. I even tried to get her to tell me what kind of smells she likes, what kind of accessories, etc. I'm genuinely so in love with her that I can't function properly. Can someone relate or tell me if this woman feels something, anything for me? Any opinions or recommendations? Because I am going insane. Okay, it's a lot. Quite a bit of this could have been summarized a lot better, but, they usually end up leaving out the information that people in the comments ask about anyway. So straight to the comments. She's an alcoholic. Run. Trust me on this. Yeah, never mind as a 30-year-old clearly putting some moves on a 19-year-old, but quite a few are pointing out this alcoholism of hers isn't going to improve at all. If she's a recovering alcoholic whose social circle is entirely composed of alcoholics, the odds of her staying sober are very slim. On top of that, you are abandoning your social life and the friends who care about you just to be with her. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I don't think you'll be happy in the long run if you give up your goals and dreams for hers. And, well, that's how we come to some quick updates OP left in this post, which as you read the pronouns, makes me begin to wonder if this is actually a woman at all. Update, I wrote this 2 days ago. We recently got together to talk. He was quite uncomfortable, but he was more open than usual, which surprised me. He told me that he was going to give up alcohol and go to therapy, and that I was the first person he told. I doubt that she is manipulating me, though. I do not rule out that the possibility exists. Those days I have been the same as everyone else. I have thought about several things that only benefit me, but also her, and avoid emotional damage. Opinions, what should I do? So take that sudden gender swapping back and forth how you will. Update 2. Okay, so she went to therapy and just had her first session. Keeps asking me to go out, but I can't because I already planned hangouts with my friends after forgetting about them. And, well, I just had a call with my parents for New Year's Eve. They live in my origin country. I felt kinda bad, so I just went to her apartment and we watched The Lord of the Rings. She fell asleep and I cried because it is my mother's favorite movie. She woke up and we went to eat where she noticed I had an eating disorder. She had been suspecting ever since we met because I simply don't eat, and I later confessed it to her, which made things more awkward, but I sort of feel safe. Still, I'll try to stop being with her so much. And so nothing was heard from her until 3 months later, where they come back with an update, and I'll be honest gang, I'm feeling more and more certain that this other woman is actually a guy. A lot has happened. She got sober, that's the first thing. The impossible thing. She told me she was going to stop drinking, and I didn't believe her. Not really, I mean. I wanted to, but I'd seen her drink like the world owed her something. I'd watched her drown herself in alcohol, and I just didn't believe her because it was almost like a part of her. But then she just stopped. She started therapy, like real therapy, weekly sessions. She told me she hated it, told me her therapist was annoying, but she kept going. She said it made her feel like she'd been underwater for years. And suddenly someone was opening the windows, that maybe she'd never seen herself clearly, or something like that. She said things like that sometimes were pretty intimate, but somehow managed to be distant. And I tried to stay away. I really did. I started going out again, reconnecting with my friends. My life looked normal, like something out of someone else's routine. There were group photos and cafes and loud dinners. I started going to parties again, and simply going out almost every day because someone else wasn't stealing my time. I posted Instagram stories almost every day, like the usual. She never posted anything because she didn't even know how to use Instagram, which I still find stupid, but she'd reply sometimes, just emojis. That laughing one, the one with the tears, the kind of texts your mum sends when she doesn't really know how else to talk online. It felt sterile, empty, like she didn't know how to reach me anymore. But then she started calling me a lot. She'd start talking about strange things, about how the wind moved past her building at night, how the streetlights flickered, how therapy made her remember things she hadn't thought about in years. She never said anything sweet, never affectionate, but she asked if I'd been sleeping, if I'd been eating, if I was writing. She told me she'd read what I'd recommended her, that she'd listened to Jeff Buckley and liked him. That part almost made me cry, about how sometimes she'd watch me sleep and think, damn, I've ruined this too. We didn't talk about us, not directly, but it was there. It always was. And I didn't really want to, but my emotions made me. I knew it wasn't healthy to get close to her again, and I was genuinely trying to forget about her. But the difference was that I simply couldn't, because she was actually insanely important for me, no matter how aloof and bitter she was. Eventually, we started seeing each other again. Not dating, just lingering. Hours spent in half-spoken conversations, dinners that turned into long drives, car rides that ended in silence. She told me about her childhood, sharp fragments. It wasn't bad, she said, just distant. Secure but cold. No major trauma, but a healthy life. She said she didn't know why she ended up the way she did, that maybe it was something chemical, that she used to think she'd be dead by 30. Not because she wanted to die, just because she didn't care and thought that alcohol killed people a lot earlier than they were supposed to. Sometimes she'd say things like, "I don't believe in people," or "I don't think I really need company to be fulfilled," and then laugh like it was just a joke. But it wasn't. She was lucid, focused, but still herself, still cold and cutting, still brutally honest in a way that made my chest tighten, but something was quieter in her now, like the screaming had gone inward. Okay, so then something very heartbreaking happened. It had been some weeks, everything good, but then one night I went to her place, and there was a man there. A short, unremarkable man, indifferent by me and just stupid looking. His presence hit me like a slap because I didn't know what the actual hell he was doing there. He wasn't repairing something and looked way too comfortable to be visiting, and so just got weirded out. So I entered and I greeted him, and then I reached her and asked her who the hell was that. She told me to leave, said it sharply like I was interrupting something. I went home and cried for hours. I started making up all the possible scenarios ever and assuming they were true. Later, she showed up at my door, the normal, but then we were calm and just ready to have a conversation. She looked at me a bit serious and said, "That man's my husband." Just like that. Flat tone, no drama, like she was telling me about an old coworker. Turns out they'd been married for years but hadn't lived together in a long time. He was in Georgia, she had moved states away, they hadn't spoken, they hated each other. Cold War silence. But suddenly, he decided he wanted to try again and showed up at her door with his bags. She said she let him stay because she was too busy to file the papers. She told me this while eating fries in my living room, like it was just gossip, like it didn't matter, like she wasn't telling me she'd been sharing space, her space, with a man who used to sleep beside her. I broke. No, really, I broke. I started crying. I couldn't stop. Something primal just took over. I barricaded the door with couch cushions, as if I could trap her there, keeping her from leaving, keep her from going back to him. My mind spiraled. I couldn't survive her, my woman, being that close to anyone else. I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't bear it. She screamed at me, she slapped me, called me pathetic, and that I was crazy. And I just cried, silent, shaking. I couldn't even speak. She said, "Let me freaking go." I didn't. She repeated, louder this time, her fists clenched, and all I could do was sob. I don't know what came over me. I throwed myself at her and kissed her. I wrapped my arms around her neck while my heels lingered in my feet. I pulled her down gently. She kissed me back very harshly. I don't know if her back was hurting, but she grabbed my shoulders and sat me down on the couch that was impeding her to go. We ended up on the couch, tangled, desperate, half mad with pain. She cupped my face and roughly grabbed my hair. She wasn't entirely on top of me, but her weight was crushing me. And not only could I feel her mouth perfectly, but also grease because of my lipstick. It felt like all my senses were high. And I have tried enough things to know what I like and what not. There are even a lot more things to explore, but I know that that kiss was probably one of the best things I ever had in my life. She bit my lip. I cried out and screamed in high bitch out of inertia. When I pulled back, there was blood in my mouth. I don't know how. She looked down and wiped away the blood with her thumb. I don't know if she felt guilty or indifferent, but she left. We didn't talk for weeks after that. I was so mad and so disappointed that I promised myself I wouldn't talk to her ever again, that if she tried to reach me, I would snap at her. And I never mentioned too much about her with my friend groups, but I was actually so upset and crazy that I just ranted about it to everyone, and they were all mad too. It was childish, but I couldn't react in any other way. I just lost my mind for some moments. Until, one afternoon, she just showed up at my house. She didn't knock, just walked in. She still had a key. I was by the pool just floating and having coffee. She found me there and said, "What the hell are you doing?" Like I'd insulted her. "Go get dressed." I obeyed. I liked it. Her voice made my spine straighten. She was furious, and God knows why. When I came back downstairs, she was leaning against my fridge. I said nothing. She grabbed my arm and pulled me outside, took me to her car. I asked where we were going. She didn't answer. We drove in silence. She lit a cigarette, rolled the window down. Eventually, we reached the beach. We are in Florida, so it wasn't hard work. We sat in the sand for hours, just listening, watching, talking. She told me about that man, her husband, and how he tried to sleep in her bed the first night. She locked herself in the bathroom until morning. Said he cried once. She felt nothing. Said she wanted a beer that night. Just one. Said she held the bottle for an hour and couldn't open it. And all the things she told me about her marriage were genuinely cold. And I thought about how all of our situation was almost movie-like, and how her marriage was so brutally real and unsatisfying. It was a harsh contrast. She told me she thought about us as teenagers, wondered how different life would be. She told me about her job, hated him, hated how exhausted she always felt. She talked and talked and talked. And now here is the crazy part. And then, just like that, while we were laying and I was trying to act all cute and calm, even though I wasn't, she had paid for numerous coffees and I was actually having a great time, giggly and fuzzy, she pulled out a ring. She just turned around and told me she didn't want anyone else walking into my house, that she didn't want anyone else touching me, that she didn't care if I hated her, that she didn't care if she didn't deserve me, that she just wanted me to be hers. Permanently. She didn't say, "I love you." She never does. But she said things that meant it. Things I can't repeat. Things too specific, too real. Things you only say when you mean it and when it's already too late. She grabbed my hand and put the ring in my finger. It fitted me perfectly and she knew what I liked. It was heavy, elegant, and looked like pure gold. The design was insanely perfect and I loved it. She knew that I loved it. I couldn't speak. I was genuinely shocked. I stared, she waited. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her how much I worshipped her, loved her, adored her, and the thought of us living together forever was almost like a Little House on the Prairie episode to me. But I couldn't. I couldn't even breathe, and it was sort of stupid to say yes from a logical approach. I tried to think sometime, and yeah, it wasn't a good idea. All I could do was whisper, "I have to think." She scoffed. "You've got to be freaking kidding me. Jesus Christ. Get your schmidt together. Marry me." She got up, brushed sand off her knees, didn't look at me. "Look, I get it," she said. It was weird because she wasn't that comprehensible, not at all. "Think." And I didn't know what else to do or say. I got up too. We drove back in silence. I haven't given her an answer yet. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I think about it every day. I don't want to lose her, but marrying her is also insane, despite how happy it would make me. Please tell me your opinions, and what do you think I should do? If I should keep talking to her or not? What should I say to her? So OP is contemplating if they should get married to someone they obviously have an unhealthy obsession and infatuation for, whom they haven't even actually been dating officially for more than 6 months. Considering who I was at their age of 19, I'm not surprised they have this terrible decision-making when it comes to someone they're attracted to. So please don't hate me if I say that I kind of sympathize with OP's behavior here. Also, let me know if you're in the same boat here. Do you reckon this is actually a dude that they've just gender swapped for the sake of the story? I don't know why they would do it. Maybe because they're afraid that they'd get more, that maybe this guy would get more hate online for what they're doing and the behavior they are expressing to OP if they wrote the story about them as a guy. So they gender swapped to try to get them in a nicer light? I don't know. Hell, you could even argue it's kind of sexist of me to assume this would only be something a dude would do. But I assure you, I only come to that logical conclusion purely because just the behavior that is being performed here. I mean, look, I'm a straight dude. I have no experience with lesbian relationships. So those who have experience as a woman dating other women, like, is there this giant polarity in terms of masculine and feminine dynamic in the relationship all the time like this? But then you also have to wonder just how much of this behavior from this other woman, how much of it has been intentional manipulation and, grooming of sorts. Maybe OP's left out some of the finer details. But that's my personal ramble about it. I am more than happy to hear yours and read your comments down below on this. What do you reckon? Do you think anyone here is, an absolute red flag problem, or are they mutually the issue? You could argue that her obsessive nature that she's been projecting onto him has probably caused him to become possessive in kind. He's essentially trading his alcohol addiction for her love addiction. Again, let me know your thoughts on these things. I'm not saying that I am in the absolute right. I just say things out loud for you to use as a platform to jump off from in the comments. For now, though, we'll end today's video there. Quite a long one. Thank you as always for reaching it this far and giving me your attentiveness. Really appreciate you for it. In the meantime, you be good, love your face, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.